Hi everyone, welcome to Placements Decoded. Today we have Ananmaya Kapur here with us. He received an offer from Bain Company in 2021, and let's know more about how he converted this company. Hey Ananmaya, how's it going?
Hi Shubham, it's great here. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How's life treating you, Ananmaya, at Bain?
So now that I've started working for Bain for more than a month now, I've started getting used to it. It was a little overwhelming in the beginning, but now I'm getting used to the lifestyle, the working lifestyle. So it's pretty decent. So yeah, it's pretty decent.
Great, great, perfect. So today I'll just brief you how it's gonna go. All right, I'm gonna ask you about what the process was, what the recruitment drive consisted of, all the rounds, and then we're gonna get into the details. And another thing I want to know about is I want to know about you and what it takes a candidate to get into Bain.
Yeah, perfect. So before we start this, I just want to say that the initiative that you're taking right now is great because I know for a fact that before the placement season, everyone is pretty overwhelmed and bummed in the sense because it can get a little overwhelming. So what you're doing right now is great because the juniors are sitting for placements right now, and this is really going to help.
Thanks,
So
man.
big ups on that.
Really appreciate it. All right, so I'm gonna start with my favorite question. What was your GPA at the time you applied for Bain?
So I applied at Bain when we had received results for a fourth semester, and my GPA was 7.94, touching 8. So yeah.
All right, perfect. How many PORs did you had at the time?
So at that time, I had two PORs. Basically, I was the vice president at the entrepreneurship cell, that was Guess, and the joint secretary of the placement cell of my college.
All right, perfect. How many internships did you have under your belt?
So at that point, I had two internships and one volunteering. One major internship that I had was Grant Thornton. I worked as an advisory intern with the M&A division. So that was one of the major drivers, I think, in the sense that that was my major internship that I had at that point of time.
And how did you get these internships?
So I'll be very honest. Being in my first year, I wasn't very aware of the much aware of the corporate culture and corporate internships, and I really wanted a corporate internship. So I reached out to my family, and they got me connected, and I landed up an interview with Grant Thornton, and
Yeah,
that's how I converted Grant Thornton as an advisory intern.
perfect. All right, did you pursue any courses or certifications outside of college?
So I had two certifications. I had done an Excel course from Coursera, and I had also done a digital marketing course. I also took part in a few competitions. I think one major competition which actually added a lot to my resume was being the semi-finalist at the Deloitte GSM competition. So yeah, that was one thing which added a lot to my resume.
So moving on to the actual recruitment drive that took place at your college. First of all, I'd like to know that which stream were you pursuing?
So I'm a BCom honors graduate. So I did Bachelor of Commerce in honors.
All right, and Bain Company was open for economics honors as well as BCom honors, right?
It was open for all courses.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so can you tell me how many rounds there were?
So basically, there were 5 rounds. There was a resume shortlisting. There was an aptitude test, and then there were 3 rounds of interviews.
So coming to the resume shortlisting, how many students applied for Bain and how many got shortlisted?
I think around 220 people applied for Bain, and I think 200 got shortlisted. 200 resumes got shortlisted, and I think 200 people got to give the test. So yeah, that.
All right, talk to me about the aptitude test. I believe that it was a short aptitude test. What was the duration of the test and what kinds of sections there were?
So as far as I remember, it was around a 45-minute test. Basic sections were QA, VA, LR. LR had a lot of attention to detailed questions because that is one thing which you actually require on the job at Bain. And there were a few subjective questions which don't have a correct answer. But I think these were the only questions which were compulsory questions in the test. Add into that, I think the aptitude test was the most important part of the process because out of the 200 people, it was in the end it was just the 25 students who actually cleared the test. So one just tip there is that if you are actually wanting to sit for a placement process, just study for the aptitude test because that is your make or break section.
Absolutely. So do you remember how many questions there were or was there any negative marking?
So there wasn't any negative marking. There were only two, compulsory questions. Um, I think there were 40 questions
All right.
divided amongst the three sections, and then there were two subjective questions later on. I
All
don't
right. So
remember exactly.
yeah. So after you submitted the aptitude test, you were sent to the next sheet or something like that, and there you two subjective questions were there. Can
Yeah.
you tell me what those questions were if you remember?
So they were basically about yourself and personal situations as to um, give a brief detail about when you took responsibility or what you understand by this role at Bain. But they differ year by year. Like last year there was a different question. This year there was a different question. There can be different questions next year. Um, so they differ, but they were more situational questions and related to you. So there's no correct answer to them.
All right, perfect. So as far as I know, no technical questions were asked in the subjective questions, right? Only most
Yeah,
of it was the HR kind of questions.
yeah.
All right. Like, so after you cleared that round, you went to the PI rounds, right?
Right.
All right. What was the difference in all of the PI rounds, and what did you face over there?
So to be honest, for me, the first two PI rounds were pretty similar. They started with a lot. It was not an interview, it was a conversation, I feel. So they wanted to know me better. So we had a little conversation, and then they threw a guesstimate at me. I think I was well versed with guesstimates, so I found it to be easy. So they asked me basic estimates, for example, cell phones produced or revenue of a restaurant. So these are the guesstimates that they asked me, and so it was HR plus guesstimates were the first two interviews, and the last interview was a complete HR question where they asked me situations where you took up responsibility, and it was just about me and my previous experience in the college or at school.
All right.
So yeah,
Talking about the guesstimates, how does one prepare for guesstimates? What resources did you use?
so basically, I wanted to learn guesstimates because I was intrigued by guesstimates, and I knew that Bain is a company which I wanted to land up like from the very beginning. So I knew that they asked guesstimates. So I started preparing a little earlier because in my GS interview as well, there were guesstimates. So I took up a few resources from my seniors. Special mention to case interviews cracked because that really helped me out. There's a YouTube video which is 1 hour long. I watched that once, and all the mock guesstimates that they have. And then I really liked the guesstimates, like I really enjoyed them. So I started like going on YouTube and watching random guesstimates that people were solving. So that gave me an acumen of solving estimates. And once I was well versed with guesstimates, I solved a few sheets, random guesstimates, picking up from like the environment.
Yeah.
So that's how I think I got well versed with guesstimates.
And what about case interviews?
There were no case interviews.
All right. The guesstimates was the major part. Were any technical questions asked to you regarding your job profile?
So yeah, they asked me a few questions in the sense that what do you understand and what do you think that a person should have to land up with this job? Because most of the job is basically dependent on attention to detail. So like they wanted to know whether you are like if there is any past experience or have you shown attention to detail. There were the little things that they were asking with respect to guesstimates because you require an analytical mind for this job. So that's what they were asking guesstimates. Adding to why how I prepared for guesstimates is one thing which I think missed out was that you should start forming case teams like groups of 3 or 4 or even 2. You should have one person with you who's always there to solve guesstimates with that because you know their perspective and then you know your perspective and you get a lot of perspectives, which is very important in solving guesstimates.
Was there any question that was asked to you and you didn't know the answer to?
Luckily, there wasn't any question. I was very well prepared.
All right, perfect. So did you always aim for Bain or you had your eyes set on any other company as well?
So to be very honest, like last year when I was seeing the companies that were visiting our campus, there was one company which I'd eyed for, and that was Bain Company. So just wanted to land up here, and I'm really glad that I'm here now. But obviously, it's not very easy to land up at Bain. So I sat for other placement trials as well. So our placement cell has given three categories, and you can sit for a company in category A, B, and C, and you can't hold more than one offer in each category. So I had an offer from Deloitte from category A. I had an offer from ZS. That was an ODA profile from category B, which really helped me prepare for this interview as well, if I have to be honest. But my
Right.
end goal was always Bain and Company. So when I got the offer from Bain, I think it was a no-brainer that I had to go for Bain later on.
Absolutely. As far as I remember, you were a part of the placement cell of your college as well, right? So
Yeah.
did you face any advantage that others didn't have at their disposal?
I think this is one thing that people have in the back of their mind that people who are in the placement cell usually land up with the job. That is a myth, I feel. One thing is that getting into the placement cell, the procedure is very rigorous. Like there are 2-3 rounds of interviews, and if you can land up in a team of 14, you always have that caliber to get into a good job. One thing, if you say advantage, I'm not saying advantage, but it's an opportunity that you get. For example, I've been in the placement cell for 2 years, and I've seen the process of different companies very closely for 2 years. So that is one advantage that I got in the sense that I've seen everything very closely. I know how things work. I've seen my seniors getting placed. That is one advantage that you get, but that is not an unfair advantage. is just an advantage. It's an opportunity that
It's
you've
an
taken. It's not an
opportunity. Yeah.
advantage. Yeah, putting it in a better way, it's an opportunity that you take. And obviously, as I mentioned, if you get into the placement cell, you have the caliber to crack any company you want to.
One last thing that I'd like to know is that do you have any advice, any secret sauce, any tip that you would like to share right now?
So I think I have two things in mind right now. One thing is that people know that Bain recruits 3, 4, 5 people, and that is one thing which then people get scared, in the sense they get intimidated. Only 4 people will get placed. So this is a tip which one senior gave to me, and I will just endorse it further. Is that it doesn't matter whether 45 students are getting placed or it's just 3 students getting placed. It is the one seat that you actually want. And when I looked at Bain in that perspective, it really helped me and gave me a lot of confidence. So if you're sitting for Bain next year or like in the coming days, just look for the one seat that you actually want, because I know for a fact that Bain will pick at least one student. And if you are that one student, is great. So look at it in that way. Now the other tip is that I know for a fact that a lot of people underestimate aptitude tests, but I think the aptitude test is the most important part of any placement process. As I've already told you, out of the 200 people who actually sat for Bain, only
Yeah.
25 people, got the opportunity to sit for interviews. That means around only just the 15% of the people or 12% of the people actually got a chance to sit for interviews. That means 85% of your competition is gone. So
Hmm.
from 200 to 25. So now you need to be in the top 5 from that 25. Things become easier once you clear the aptitude test. So don't take it lightly. Study hard for the aptitude test is one tip which I will give. And I'm a firm believer that if you clear the aptitude test, things become easier. And that's not just for Bain, but for any aptitude test, because usually the rate is 20-25%. I remember for ZS, I think it was 180 to 34.
All right.
So see, 150 people just off. That just cuts your competition so much. And finally, just be yourself. If you be yourself, then obviously you get a better opportunity getting placed. And best of luck for Bain.